All right, so we're recording. Welcome to episode 10 of Auto Off Topic, the podcast. I'm your host, Andrew, and joining me as always to help with hosting duties is Brad.
Good evening, Andrew.
And this week, because it's the first episode of 2017,
As promised,
we have a guest. We've got Jared Robinson, a.k.a. Chapel, joining us.
How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
a.k.a. as in, not like he's running from the law, a.k.a. as in internet pseudonym Chapel.
Yes. You may know him from the internet as Chapel.
Yes, everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yes. If you're a Volkswagen owner, more likely there.
Yeah.
Yeah, was it Car Lounge?
Car
Volkswagen
Lounge,
Vortex.
Yeah.
And the Car Lounge and M-Works.
Yeah. Any forum for any car he's ever owned and then some.
Yeah, everybody else's forums too.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he is possibly one of the only people I know who has more obscure car knowledge than we do here. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
I blame that on my Asperger's.
Oh, I blame it on reading nothing but magazines about cars when I was a kid. So
That too.
yeah.
So, 2017?
Welcome.
I know.
Goodbye, 2016.
It's good.
Not going to say it was a bad year personally, but we all know the hot thing to do right now is to make fun of 2016. So, screw you, 2016.
See that Mariah Carey shit show?
I saw it after somebody
Oh my
told
God,
me. I saw
it was so
after
funny
fact.
at the time.
I
I don't
felt
waste
bad
my
for
time.
her.
It's just like just walking around like just I don't know what to do or
Yeah.
whatever.
As an audio
So
engineer, I
ridiculous.
was looking at that and going, this isn't her fault. They need to fire all the people in the back. But
Well, anyway, don't have any corrections and omissions this week. I think we had one last week. We couldn't remember
We
what
had
it
some
was.
stuff wrong, but we forget what it was.
I can tell you.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember? All right.
No, probably not off the top of my head, but
Okay, we'll figure it out in the way.
Yeah, no big deal.
If it was wrong and you know it was wrong, you already know it was wrong. If it was wrong and you don't know it was wrong, just pretend it was right.
That's right. So last week I said we were going to have a coloring contest. I just want to remind everyone that we're having a coloring contest of the Colt coloring book that I posted
The Mitsubishi coloring book.
Mitsubishi coloring contest. I posted a link and the pictures that I scanned from the coloring book. Those are on the Facebook page. I'll repost it again this week. We're going to run it till February 1st, I believe, is the first.
Whatever the first
Wednesday
of that
of
month
February?
is, yeah.
So I figured we could have two versions. You can color it in with pencils, crayons, whatever. Take a picture of it, post it to our wall. Or if you want to take one of the digital versions of it and color it in like Illustrator or something, or if you're really good with MS Paint, I don't know if people still do
Even
that.
if you're not really good with MS Paint.
Yeah, it would be really funny if you just do whatever you want to do with it.
Keep it PG-13.
yeah,
though.
no dick pics or anything.
yeah, that's good. That's a good one for the Car Lounge to put on.
Yeah,
Sure. Absolutely.
I guarantee you'll get some really good
Promote.
yeah, sure.
Hey, the more places we're promoted, the more people listen.
Yeah.
The more people listen, the better it is for us.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Project car updates. So, last week I talked about almost buying a second-gen Montero with the box flares.
And it falling through.
Because it didn't have a title.
Was that covered on the podcast? I think it was.
It
right?
was.
Yeah.
I contacted a friend of ours that we have in Arizona, Josh. He runs a company called Adventure Driven Design. So if you've got a Montero and you want off-road parts for your Montero, you should check him out.
I think they're also starting to do some Toyota stuff. Or not?
I'm not sure.
No? He said something about Toyota. Maybe I misheard. But definitely Montero stuff, which
Yeah.
is hard to get because nobody
Yes,
makes
it's
Montero
nice
stuff.
to see someone making stuff, or two guys making stuff for that platform. But anyway, I contacted him because I was like, I want to get a rust-free truck. He has got one, and I bought it. So for a little bit more money than what I was going to spend on a rusty, broken truck from Massachusetts, or Northeast rather, I've got an Arizona truck. So, and that leads us to...
Project Car Update number 2.
That segues right into Brad's Project Car Update because we need you to go get it.
Correct. Well, there's 2 Project Car Updates. I think last week we'd already taken apart the Raider, or we hadn't taken it apart yet?
We had taken it apart.
We had? Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's apart. Since last week, wonderful listener of the show has come through and supplied me with a cylinder head to put on the 4-cylinder Raider. Montero Raider type thing. So regardless, that's moving along. As soon as that part comes in, that car should be on the road next week. I can't wait. I'm very excited. More exciting is picking up Andrew's Montero in Arizona. My company, Vintage Imports of New England, has been in the market for a while. We talked about it on the podcast in the past, buying a diesel truck. I've I bit the bullet, and I've figured out finances and money and everything else. And I'm also buying a truck in Arizona. I looked at a bunch of Massachusetts trucks. Andrew and I actually went out, was it New Year's Day?
No, it was before.
Okay, day before New Year's Eve?
Friday.
Okay,
was a
nonetheless. We went out, found a truck, said, all right, I'm going to go to the bank, try to buy this truck, and come back and get it. By the time we got back, the truck had sold to a cash buyer. And since then, I found nothing but rusty trucks here in New England. Even 10-year-old trucks are rusty here in New England, unfortunately. So I'm going to buy an Arizona truck as well. I'm going to fly to Arizona, buy an Arizona truck and an Arizona trailer, and I'm going to haul Andrew's new Montero back.
It's a good plan.
So the project car updates are kind of exciting this week.
Yeah.
Not really project car yet, but project purchase, I guess.
Yep. But it's going to go up in Vine probably the end of this week. I am selling my silver 89 long wheelbase Montero.
Yeah.
It's had quite a bit of work done to it over the last couple of years. I didn't really buy it as a flip truck, so I spent a little more money and time on it than I probably should to really make any money on it. So I'm letting it go for basically
you gotta lose money, yeah.
basically what I paid, what I'm into it for. So if you're interested in that, let us know. We can give you some more pictures of it, and I'll give you a good price on it.
Anyway, salesmanship over.
Yep.
Hey, one more project car we worked on, friend of the podcast.
Oh yeah, we worked on
Jordan's car.
Yeah, Jordan's STI. And
Which, before you get into this, if I call our guest today Jordan multiple times, I apologize, because we have a very close friend named Jordan, and Jordan and Jared in my head twist back and forth all the time.
Okay.
So
Just call me Chapel.
yeah, Chapel. No,
No,
I can't
don't.
do that.
No, don't,
I can't
please.
do that. Yeah.
No.
Wait, I'll call you Chappelle.
Yeah, Chappelle. So we had to do valve cover gaskets on that thing.
The STI, yeah.
The STI, because it was leaking, which is semi-annoying because on a normal four-cylinder car, you do one valve cover and you're like, all right, cool, we're done. But of course, on the STI, you have to do both sides.
And of course, they're against the frame rails, right?
Yeah, there's literally just enough room to do it. And the engine's got a weird little tilt to it. You know, they're kind of like tilted back. They're not perfectly level. Mm-hmm. So it's a little tricky. You get gear wrenches and short sockets, and you can do it. And just take your time. It's just kind of a pain.
I've never owned a Subaru because I'm afraid of Subaru maintenance.
Like just doing the spark plugs is
Exactly.
There was rear spark plugs.
The same reason I never bought a fourth-gen Camaro, because I don't want to have to run around with the two spark plugs in the back never changed.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
So I've never. They scare me a little bit. I'm sure they're not a problem. I know you guys didn't have too much of a problem doing it, but I don't know. I
No,
like
the
simple-
rear, when you take out the rear coil, you unbolt it, pull it out, and then actually flip it upside down while it's still kind of loose on the spark plug, and it will slide right out.
Oh, really?
It wasn't bad at all.
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't there, so I don't know.
It just took me a while. I'd actually never done it before, so.
And the only one you've done before was out of the car when you did your
Yeah, we
fiance's
did.
car.
Yeah, we did Stephanie's car, but her was a single cam motor too, so it was easier.
Oh, that's true.
Single cam engine. I hate when people call them motors, but engine. So
All right.
anyway, let's go
We'll
to
move quickly today because we want to get to our guests.
Yeah,
So
we'll
go
move-
go through our standard weekly banter quick.
We'll move through scale project cars pretty quickly. I started the Aoshima, the fully painted Final Edition Evo kit. It actually has little. You can set it up so it's lowered.
Oh, really?
It's
That's
got,
cool.
Yeah, it's got little lowering blocks and little different mounting points for the rear wheels. So it lowers it probably like a millimeter or something, which is kind of cool. So I set that
very
up
cool.
like that. So otherwise it'll be stock, but a little bit lowered, which would look good in a model kit.
Yeah.
Except the rear mounting points aren't very good, so one of the wheels kind of.
So the wheel fell off.
Yeah, but I used white glue, the crystal clear
Yeah, you need
white
super
glue.
glue.
I'm going to use super glue on it.
Pressure on the wheels.
That's about as far as I got on that.
Real quick on mine, on the Evo 3, we've been building kind of as a team build here, the two of them together. I got a chassis pretty much all done up, detailed, painted, weathered. Changed direction from going from RS, because I couldn't find a set of steel wheels that looked right in the car. I found a set in my kit stash of Mines tuning decals from the Japanese tuning company Mines.
Still around?
I don't know if they're still around or not.
I think so.
But nonetheless, the car's it's an Evo 3, so they were around then, that's for sure. They did a lot of Evo 3s.
Yeah.
But I found a set of Mines decals and a set of 18-inch, or scale 18-inch Enki NTO3s that I'll put in the car. And
I'm disappointed that they stopped making those wheels.
Yeah, they're a cool wheel.
Of all the wheels Yankee still makes, like, they should bring back the NTO3. Actually, wasn't it like NTO3 Plus or something?
I don't remember the exact
I
specifications.
think that's the later.
That might have been a 3-piece version of it or something.
Maybe.
I think that was
They
like
always
the
had a couple different versions of wheels.
bigger than 17-inch version, maybe.
That was called Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I've always had a Plus M.
Yeah, that's
Andrew
the
has a set of 19-inch
scale, 1/24 scale, 19-inch wheels,
Yeah. So I think the M meant it had that extra little ring around the side,
the
right?
little webbing.
No, all the NTO3s had the web.
Oh, all the M.
Yeah.
All right.
I remember they looked
the design
really
of the
good
NTO3.
on like Evo 8s and Evo 9s.
It was a very rally-inspired wheel. I'm a bit of an Enki nerd. I've always had Enkis on my cars. I've had 3 sets.
you counting the factory ones,
Not counting the factory ones. I've had even more now.
because a lot of the Mitsu factory stuff, the performance stuff, is Enkis.
Yeah, but my first Eagle Talon that I had the Enki RSEs.
Oh yeah, those are good looking.
Which were not the RS Evolution. The RS Evolution was a 3-piece, and the RSE was a single-piece version of the RS Evolution.
That was a good looking wheel.
So I've always had a few set of Enki 92s running around. So anyway, off topic. Time for
That's what we do. So let's get to our guest. Brad and I have known Jared locally through various car enthusiast circles, probably close to 10 years, I think.
at least maybe the one.
I think I met you
easily.
first in like 2006.
It was
'cause
before any of us had kids.
Yeah.
because I had an STI, and at the time you said it was an 01?
Yeah, and an 01 WRX, so that was 2005 to 2007,
That was a blue-
I think.
Yeah,
Blue wagon, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
which makes sense because I bought my STI used in 06. So met through like Naziok meets like North Shore, because we all lived. Well, we still live within like 20 miles of each other, but we were a lot closer back then. I think all in the same city. So
Yeah, I think we all lived in Salem around then, probably.
I was in Beverly for a while.
Beverly,
Yeah.
okay,
Close to
yeah, close enough.
for those not local, that's next town over. So.
And then maybe you knew Jared. Did you know Jared through like Vortex when you had your GTI? Or
I'm not sure where we originally met, but
We've met-
crossed circles so many times over
Back
the
when
years.
we used to
it Bennington Meets?
meet at Bennington
Oh,
Meets.
Bennigan's.
Bennigan's.
Yeah.
Bennigan's. That's what I said.
Yeah, Wednesday night Bennigan meets. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because that's
That was fun.
what is that now?
Santarpio's.
Oh yeah. Now they meet at
Chili's,
There's
I
a-
think.
I don't know. Is Chili's still
I have no
going
idea.
on? I'm so out of the loop.
Yeah,
I don't even
I've-
know anymore. Again,
Well,
this is all pre-kids.
Well, I think-
and now that we're married with kids and
I think
or
some people
getting married,
meet
as Andrew
at
is.
oh my gosh, what's the drive-in place?
Sonic.
Sonic.
Yeah, there is a Sonic on Tuesday nights. I think.
Yeah,
I don't know.
there's
how
a Sonic around here. So
There's one Sonic around here.
yeah.
2 Sonics. One in Lawrence now too.
Oh.
Not that I'd want to sit in my car. Okay, then moving on. Yeah, I think there's still a local meetup on Tuesdays, but it's not a Volkswagen meetup anymore. Now it's more of a general car crowd
Probably a
meetup.
stance meetup.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think we were in the Volkswagen crowd when it was. I don't want to say it was in its infancy as far as the internet stuff goes, but it kind of was near the beginning of, it was early 2000s, late 90s when we were all doing it.
I mean, I've been in it since like 97, 98.
Yeah.
So like this was before you could easily get power out of a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
Like you either got a 8-valve with 115 horsepower and turboed it to 190 and blew it up,
Right.
or you had a VR6 that you
And
put
blew
cams
it up
in
anyway.
and maybe got 220 horsepower and then blew it up because
It was before the internet brought everybody together and simultaneously ruined everything at the same time.
yes.
Yeah.
But so I wanted to start off by asking you. So how did you get into cars? Were you into cars before you had your license, or was it after? Because that's always interesting to me. Because Brad and I were into cars well before we had our license, and some people we meet are into cars after they get their license.
Yeah, I mean it's been a lifelong thing. My mom was a notorious drag racer out in the marshlands back in the 60s.
Oh,
in the
excellent.
early
So, like,
70s.
Like 107 out here.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So
That
they
means
used
that
to,
your mom and my dad probably crossed circles back in the day.
Very
because
likely.
He was out there all the time.
Do you know Peterson's Auto Body?
Oh, yeah.
You know Freddie.
Yeah, Freddie, yep.
Freddie and my mom were intense rivals.
Oh, excellent.
So my mom had a 69 GTO, 400. I don't think it was a Ram Air, but 4-speed. She didn't know how to drive a 4-speed. It was her first car.
Excellent.
Her uncle got it for her. It was carousel red.
Oh,
It's like it was everything short of like a judge.
almost a
package.
judge, but not
Yeah.
a judge.
Exactly, because she hated the judge. She didn't like the stickers. She didn't like the wing. She thought it was ostentatious. So
Carousel Red wasn't ostentatious, though. Oh, okay.
No, that's cool.
That's very cool.
And so she met my dad around that time, and my dad was not a drag racer. He had like a '68 Le Mans or something like that. Like he also had a Pontiac. So,
Right. The plebeian version of it.
And so my mom had, one of her friends from the local college. They would go out and basically the rotaries that are or the rotary on one end, and then there's the Fox River Bridge, whatever it's called now, on the other end. And you would run back and forth between that, and it's like 2 miles long.
It's a long stretch.
And there used to be drive-ins along there if you go by. So she did that a lot growing up, and I heard all the stories from her friends and
that's very cool.
Freddie and stuff.
That's very cool.
When I was a little kid, we had a '86 Caprice Classic wagon.
Okay.
That, as far as I know,
hence your B-body love.
Yeah, my mom had the engine either swapped out for a pre-smog engine, or had the motor
desmogged.
Yeah.
So your mom was always into it.
Yeah,
that's
and
cool.
I've never thought to ask my dad if this is true, because I just enjoy telling it. But we'd always heard that it was like a '72 Pontiac 400 with a 4-speed in it, automatic.
Yeah.
In this B-body, and it was like the greatest car, and we loved it. And then it did what B-bodies do in New England, and it turned into complete rut. Yeah, so
that's a really cool story. My mom had kind of a similar car, not on purpose. She had the big Cadillac, or the big blue Caddy.
Yeah.
That it was a 6-cylinder '81 Coupe de Ville, which is a horrible car.
Aftermarket color too, right? Was that the original?
Yeah, my father painted it.
Yeah, because your dad owned a body shop.
Right, he had a body shop at the time. Yeah. But the 6-cylinder obviously was not up to task of hauling around a giant, Coupe de Ville, and the motor expired. It was a car my grandfather had bought brand new, and my father went out in the backyard with body shop, and he found, I think it was a '72. It was an early '70s Olds Cutlass that had an Olds 350 in it, and he picked it right out of the Olds and dropped it in the Cadillac, and didn't change any of the gearing, so it was still geared super, super low for 6-cylinder not having any power.
V6.
So that car was chirp third gear on Island Avenue. My mother's not a drag racer as yours was, but it was cool to have a stupid fast car, and I stupidly didn't buy the car when my father gave me the opportunity. I should have, but anyway, back to your car history. Sorry, as an aside.
I bet there's some connection to my dad and his buddy Lenny. I bet there's some.
They probably know her too, because they're all the same age. Even my mom was from the area, right?
They were all from here. We're townies.
Yeah, they'd all raise hell out there too. So.
Yeah,
but yeah, this was like '69 to like '71, '72.
It's a little before my dad, but that's exactly your dad's area.
Yeah.
And then, so she, so I heard all these stories of people drag racing up and down the marshlands when I was little, like literally they would tell me stories about people trailering, basically like sand rails, out there to go drag up and down. And then when the cops would come, they would put the thing back on the trailer and shut it off and say, "Oh no, we're just heading up to the drag."
Yeah. I've heard some of those stories. I know there was somebody who had a drag racing Christmas tree in the back of the pickup truck.
Oh, yeah.
And my father tells me that story all the time.
And then, I had thousands and thousands of Hot Wheels and Matchbox. I was more of a Matchbox kid because I kind of like the real cars.
Right. Which has changed a little bit.
It's changed a lot.
Yeah, they were bigger back then. You got Matchboxes, and they were cooler.
Right.
And the Hot Wheels are always the weird things like the shark car and all the.
Yeah, there always have been realistic Hot Wheels too, but they're always hot rods.
Yeah, and they've always got like weird colors, but they were better on the tracks. But I never had the tracks, so I never really cared to get the Hot Wheels.
That's cool.
I always wanted, we always did like the city kind of stuff where you're driving around.
Yeah, the playmat.
Yeah, exactly. And then
you still collect Hot Wheels?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Well, my son collects Hot Wheels.
Right. Wink,
has
wink.
no interest in that.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Wink, wink. I like it. Yeah, he'll get there.
And then
just give him an RC car. Then
I got him an RC car. Okay. He really wants to play with it, but I'm afraid to let him because it's an '82 Tamiya Super Champ.
Oh.
They've re-released most of their '80s cars.
Yeah,
so
guess what? It's not
the
same.
No, they changed things to make it more reliable.
Yes, they did.
So they're better.
There's some good Traxxas we're looking at. What was that Traxxas?
The little 1/18 scale truck.
Yeah,
$130 ready to run, and all the part support is out there.
Full drive.
Truck.
It's like real soft,
very good
ABS
truck.
plastic. Like
I might get him one when we
comes in
the
the Robbie
bigger house.
Yeah, the Robbie Gordon colors.
Yeah, Lothrop Street's not really the best.
Yeah, that's not a good place. You don't want to be running an RC car out there.
Edit that out. Sorry, that area is not the best area for having an RC car.
That's right. I'm not going to be there much longer.
All right. Yeah. Which is funny because right across the street from my father's old body shop.
Oh, where's that?
The whole block was my family. The Seattle Auto Spring Brake and Clutch.
Oh, all right.
Because before it was Brake and Clutch, the Brake and Clutch showroom which we're going to get into in another future episode with my father's on, was my grandfather's Willys dealership.
Ooh.
And behind that, the white building, which is now Breaking Clutch as
That
well, was Salem Auto Spring.
That was going to turn into the Tucker.
It was going to be a Tucker dealership, yeah.
That's a cool story.
And then behind that, the blue building, the big blue steel building, was my father's body shop, Allied Auto Body, for years.
Oh.
So that closed down in the late 90s. But anyway, a little family history.
Yeah.
And on the other side of my grandmother's house, she lived on the other side of that body shop. So right by you. I know the area well.
Yeah.
What kind of so what was your first car?
So I got my first car. It was my great aunt's 93 Grand Am SE.
Ooh, hand me down. I like it.
Yeah, 115 horsepower quad.
Ooh, quad 4?
No, quad overhead cam.
Oh.
Which basically just means it's a single overhead cam with 4 cylinders.
Okay.
But it had, but I thought for a long time I thought it was like the good one,
the legendary quad 4.
No, 3-speed automatic, terrible. I actually think I put NKs on that, and with like 17s back when 17s were huge.
Were they Yankee Shoguns? Because that was the big
no,
wheel to get
they
back
were
then.
kind of like the ones that are on the Evo 10.
Oh, it's
Oh,
multi-spoke.
like 10 spoke.
Yeah, those 10-spoke ones. They actually, I mean, it looked pretty good, except for
Yeah.
the fact that like the back end was
9 miles in the air.
Yeah, compared to the front, the shocks are terrible.
That's cool.
But once I got some money and some bad decisions, I went out and bought a 75 Scirocco that had no floors.
That's a good decision.
And I had no business getting into that one. I think I spent about $100 on that one. Had a forged title.
Ooh.
The guy's ex-wife left the car in his driveway, and he forged her name on it. And apparently, someone was paying attention, and like the address that was on it wasn't correct or something like that, and it came back to bite me.
Weird.
That lived in someone's shed for a long time, and eventually the shed fell down on it. But we pulled it out, and I sold it for a door for my Rabbit, which I had bought after that. So I had an 83 Rabbit, which I had never legally registered, titled, or insured, but drove it quite often with the plates for my Grand Am. But generally the front
7-day
plate.
transfer. It's all good.
Yeah. Front plate of my Grand Am on the back of my GTI most of the time.
The beauty of living in a city, cops don't pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I was able to run up along, like Dodgers Row and
Right.
Larches Row and stuff where there's no cops. It's just like that perfect picturesque New England road. I briefly had an Eclipse GSX,
Which I didn't find out until we were preparing for the show, and that makes you one of us,
Yeah.
regardless of how briefly or how much you hated it.
I had it for a week. Someone sold it to me with the intention that a week later I would pay him for it. And after a week of driving it, I hated it. I hated it. Chewed through gas. The clutch. There's something wrong with the clutch. And what I eventually found out when I gave it back to the guy,
Crank was
he
probably
said,
walking.
so what actually, he had a remote start installed, and they drilled through the clutch slave cylinder or the clutch master cylinder when they were putting the clutch interlock in.
So by accident. Wasn't
Yeah.
It? Okay.
So apparently it was just
Pissing
fluid. So
Weird.
that's why I didn't, and I wasn't very good at driving stick at that point in my life too. So
Okay. So it wasn't necessarily the car's fault.
no, but it that didn't help how it handled. It was one of those cars where I felt like it you couldn't feel the road.
You were not driving it well sorted.
No.
No, it wasn't.
It just felt like
That is-
soft, and like the steering didn't have any feel to it and stuff like that.
That is not the experience.
For a
of it
second
all.
gen?
No, it's the same.
Second gens are pretty good.
It's pretty much the same car underneath. I mean, it's
It's actually good.
Isn't the engine on the other side?
Nope, none of that.
no same.
Oh, I
engine.
thought it was this.
Yeah. The only difference is the
got
7-bolt versus 6-bolt crank.
Yeah, it's
And
got double wishbone.
Yeah, exactly. But it's this. They're good cars.
Yeah, I
I've
didn't
driven
like
quite a few
this
of
one.
them.
Was probably just crap then.
It might have been worn out. We'll have to let you drive one of our Mitsubishi some point. So
Well, this was 1999, so it was only 4 years old.
well, 4 years in New England can do a lot.
Yeah.
I know another friend of the podcast has a second gen that he's had, which is a 99 that he's had since like 2003, so it was only 4 years old, and it was pretty well rotted out when he got it. So
Yeah, they didn't at some point in the early run of the second gens. They stopped galvanizing them, so then they're just
and if he had it
God.
in 99, he would have had it pre-front suspension recall too,
yes.
before they changed the lower control arms.
Yeah, the two. It's got two. Actually, it's a lot like a BMW setup with the two You've got the arm that almost comes straight out from the frame, and then the arm that kind of comes out at an angle.
There's
It's like
two
a toe and
two
a
ball joints at the bottom.
yeah. It was a toe arm and a trailing arm, tension rod arm. Those kind of wear out.
There's a problem with those, and they wore out faster than they should have, and they were recalled. Probably in like 01,
Yeah.
02.
Knowing what I know about cars now, it sounds there's a good chance it just
it
like
could have been
all the
that.
bushings are just cooked.
Yeah.
More than likely.
I mean,
'Cause they're really fun cars to drive, and I'm surprised you
Oh,
had
it's
that
fun in a
experience.
straight line and in the rain, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's funny because, I know it's not an Evo, but we never got the Evos here then. But it's such a similar car to the car that was universally loved in the rest of the world that it's hard to say that somebody who drove a good one would hate it. Because if you drove a good one, I think you would change your mind.
I think I also just hated the interior too. I think the
interior's
interior,
ugly.
Yeah, like it just
The
felt
first
like I was
gen's
in
way
this
better.
weird cocoon.
Yeah,
This
the
weird,
first gen's way better.
yeah.
It's like a fake Supra. I don't like the interior of those cars.
After that, I had my first BMW. That was I had an E30. I had an 88 325 IS
Zender turbos.
with Zender turbos on
that
it.
car.
I had found every person who owned those Zender turbos. 'Cause
Before?
Before me, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I found every single person who had owned them before me, completely at random. Like one guy was like, "I used to have those wheels," and I asked him who he got them from, and he's like, "Oh, I got them from this." And I had another guy I actually
you
knew.
knew him, yeah.
He was the guy that originally bought them.
That's cool.
And then, and like they've all just been kind of like between like Manchester and Beverly.
The more important question is, where are they now?
One got destroyed. So
That's
when I
what I wanted to
sold
hear.
them, when I sold them to the next person, so my friend Pat bought them off of me.
Pat
he
had
got-
Volkswagens too, right?
Yes, yeah, and Pat got shoved into the median on Sturo Drive one day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
So the wheel got Bostoned.
yeah,
Yeah, it's real narrow.
yeah. Someone just cut him off.
I remember that car because I remember it was in the readers' rides too of the original Retro Cars magazine.
Yes, yep.
Yeah.
And it was
Way back now.
That was a fun car. That had like 210,000 miles on the original clutch. It had like that was the first car I started really dynoing things on, which was like became like my most big passion for cars lately is benchmarking them.
Yeah.
And then I bought that before E30s were worth something.
Stupid money.
Yeah.
And so I sold it right as the market was going up, and I actually sold that for more than I bought and put money into it for. And I
Always
went
a
out to
win.
Chicago, and I found it the other day.
I think you posted it the other day. It was kind of neat, right?
It's a drift missile with holes everywhere.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But like someone was like, "How can you tell that's your car?" I'm like, "It literally still has the Euro Tuner sticker I put on in 2002."
Which is a magazine that also doesn't exist anymore. I don't think.
Exactly. And like you could see, and I had scraped off when the magazine went under. I scraped off the word tuner and just put Euro.
Oh, okay. So it's definitely your car.
Definitely my car.
That's funny.
Even had the HIDs and the black lights that I had put on, and you could still see that it had, like the Laminex had the same burn marks in it because like they overheated because I originally had like 100-watt halogens in it.
I hate seeing my old cars.
Yeah, that
really
was
gives me
that was rough, and it had the Recaro SRD that I had in it too.
Oh, I used to see my old STI around. It was mint when I got rid of it to get my Evo, and the kid just beat the crap out of it. Lived in like the Peabody area. It was just gross.
Yeah.
Just destroyed.
I like selling cars far away for that reason.
Yeah.
Which you went your BMW to Chicago. You shouldn't have seen it again. But you saw it online.
Well, I keep in touch with the people. I guess it's
okay.
probably a bad thing.
That's a bad thing.
But the funny thing is, the guy who was selling it wasn't actually the guy I sold it to, so
So
it
it
was
changed
just someone
hands a few
else. Yeah, it
times.
changed hands, and I don't remember even how someone. I don't think I was looking for it specifically. I think someone found it and sent it
Send
to
it
me.
to you.
Yeah.
It's funny. My last wide body Conquestarian went to Chicago as well. I'm sure it looks just like that now too. Because
Yeah, if your guy doesn't drive it in the winter, hopefully not.
no, he bought it for the winter. It was his winter car.
What?
Remember that? You don't remember that?
No?
He's like, "Do you have snow tires for it?" And I was like, "I can get some." And then he goes, "If you get snow tires, I'll fly out to Boston and buy it."
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened with my guy too. He flew out to Boston.
Why would you?
Yeah.
I picked him up in actually flew out to Manchester because it's
okay.
cheaper.
Why is that a winter car?
Oh, you wanted a rear-wheel drive winter car. And then
I guess that was before BRZs existed.
The best part about the whole story, he was a BMW guy actually. He had a 335 I, which is the twin turbo, if I'm not mistaken.
Or a single turbo, depending on what year it is. Yeah.
I'm not, it was a
E90
turbo.
gen?
Yeah,
If it's an E90, then yeah, those are the turbo ones.
I don't know. I know it was a turbo
Could
car.
be twin or single.
Yeah, it could be twin or single.
I
Yeah.
know it was like an 1100 horsepower, some stupid number, big turbo, ridiculousness. So it's probably single turbo. But he didn't want to drive it in the winter for that reason. But he still wanted a turbo rear-wheel drive car for the winter. It's
weird.
And he
It's weird
found
to
my
me.
point Nonetheless,
He paid you the money, and it's his car. You can do whatever he
point
wants
of the
with it.
story. About a year and a half later, I saw the car back for sale online on some of the Conquestarian forums, and he was basically telling me that I was a liar and a terrible person, and the car wasn't what I sold him. So I sold him the car for $3,000. Like I didn't. It's not like I told him, his 150,000 mile car. It was really clean.
It was a pretty clean car.
It was really straight. There's no issues, but like the ECU went bad, and obviously that makes me a bad seller.
Which is very common. The old
Very,
Mitsubishi
very
ECUs go bad all the time. You got to have them
The
rebuilt.
ECU went bad, and right before I sold it, the exhaust had cracked in the downpipe, and I needed to get it fixed quick, and I had a shop fix it real quick, and it broke again.
Yeah.
So not my fault, but it's my fault according to him, and he lambasted me on all the forums and backtalked me, and not backtalked me, bad mouthed me, and thankfully some other Mitsubishi people came to my.
Yeah, because you drove that car to the Dragon. That was not a bad car.
Yeah, we drove that car to Tennessee and back.
Yeah. No, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. So what happened after the E30?
So I bought a Saab. I bought a 99 Saab 9.5 Aero with
Okay.
a manual.
Silver car?
Green.
Green.
The silver wagon was my wife's.
Okay.
And that's why I bought the green sedan, because
Okay.
I really liked her car. Terrible decision. Fun car. It was the first year, so it had really nasty torque steer.
Okay,
Of
so
the
no
arrows.
limited slip or anything.
No limited slip, no reinforcement of the steering arms. No, there's like a bunch of stuff like the tranny mounts go bad. All these things that basically. So when you step on the gas, the steering wheel turns about 90 degrees to the left.
I like
and it's so much fun. But when you don't want it, it's terrible.
Annoying, yeah. I don't think you ever want torque steer, but
No, but it's so much fun.
I can
It's like,
understand
I just want
the
to change
fun when
lanes.
it's
I'm just going
like
to
a
take
game.
my
Yeah.
hands off the wheel, step on the gas, and I'm in the other lane. But they made a lot of power. Like, it was another car I dynoed. Bone stock dynoed it, made the same power that they quoted you. Like, it was like 230 at the wheels
And that was the quoted crank
and like
power.
260 at the crank for 260 torque. Because it has like the overboost function, which allows for 20 seconds of like 23 pounds of boost.
Whoa.
Really?
Yeah, so it's about 310 foot-pounds of torque.
That's a 2.3, right?
Yeah, 2.3. It's got
That's that torque number for you. Yeah, 2.3.
and it's got that that weird like cassette ignition that's really easy to fix, but
Yep.
kind of expensive. And you
Yeah, my
normally
wife
keep
has
like
a Saab.
3 or 4 in.
My wife has a Saab now, and I have the rebuilt ignition cassette in there now.
Oh, and you got the red. You've got the red top.
The red top, yeah, which is supposed to be good forever.
Yes, the red
Supposedly.
tops are good, except you can't use them on a Trionic 7 motor, which is
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, so you have a
literally
Trionic-
everything I know about Saabs, I've learned in the past 3 months that my wife has had.
Is
hers.
your 9000? Is the ignition in the middle?
No, the 9000 is not. The 9000 has ignition next to the steering wheel.
Yeah.
It's a more conventional car.
Okay.
The power windows and the sunroof switch.
That was
is
like a
in the middle,
90s Swedish thing. Is Volvo 850s are that way? The power window switches
in the middle.
In the middle.
My Audi
BMW
4000
like
had
that
it
too.
too.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that, to be honest.
I like Saabs. I never owned one, and I've always kind of been on the outside looking in, and I've always wanted a 900 Aero. Or
The 9000?
No, 900 Turbo, excuse me.
Oh yeah.
And we wound up, I got a good deal on this 9000 for my wife, and I've fallen in love with it. So
Is it a sedan or is it the 5-door?
it's a 5-door. It's a hatchback. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a CSE Turbo.
CSE, yeah.
It's one level below the Aero. So it's unfortunately an automatic, which is unfortunate for me and the wife because she doesn't like the automatic either. But
She'd like it better. That's a terrible manual. It's
Is it
probably
really?
it's super ropey. You have to stick it in reverse to take the key out. Though I don't know if that's the case on the 9000s, but on the 95s and the 93s and the early ones, you have to put it in reverse in order to turn the car off.
well, we're Mitsubishi people, so we're used to putting it in reverse to put it in first gear, anyways.
Yeah.
Or the other way around. You got to go a little first.
Yeah, first or
Then you
reverse,
pop it
yeah.
over in reverse. Get the synchros
Bad
line up.
synchros.
That car got me set up for a really good trade, though. Some guy decided it would be a great idea to trade his 2001 WRX wagon for my 9.5 Aero.
That was a keys up trade.
Like keys up, and no, it was like I put like another $3 or $4 grand on top of it. It was like
Okay.
the first time I actually got a car loan. It was like a really small car loan, but
Yeah. That was a pretty new car at the time, so they're probably like, okay.
That was a bug eye wagon, right?
yeah, 2001.
Yeah.
So and it was reasonably built when I got it. It had a lot of STI stuff in it. It had the best thing the guy did was he put a rally spec Type RA gearbox into it.
Ah, yeah.
So he put the
Okay,
GD8 or no G. What's the 22B motor?
I don't know.
I think yeah. So
That's a GC.
GC. Yeah, so you got a GC8 Rally Applicant gearbox, completely put together by a company called Rally Spec in New Jersey.
Okay.
The whole thing was like cryo-treated, shot peened, the whole thing. And the Rally Applicant gearbox is really cool because the first and second gear are up to like 63 miles an hour, and they're really thick. So first gear is like way thicker than the regular, because back then
That was the weak point in those cars, was the 5-speed.
was the 5-speed. The first gear would just shatter because it was very narrow. And the other thing too is the gears on them were almost straight.
Okay.
So
a lot of wine.
a lot of wine, and it just sounded awesome.
The car looked really good too. I remember the car vividly because it was one of the first around here that was well put together.
Yeah,
the car had a really nice lip kit around the top bottom of it, and it was just a really pretty car.
That was the sedan kit modified to fit
the wagon.
The wagon, yep.
Yeah,
And then
really looking car.
and then it had the GC 5-spoke gold wheels, the 16 inches,
Yeah, with the little
the
spoke at the
entire
end of it.
time.
Yeah.
And it still has those wheels to
Oh,
this
the car's
day.
still around here?
Yep.
Oh, excellent.
It's out in. I want to keep wanting to say Western Mass, but he's not that far out. He's just like on like 495, but that's like Western Mass.
probably
Waltham.
It's probably the classic quarter panel rot.
So that car, I sold that car because I wanted to buy a house. I wanted to stop living in
Yeah,
apartments.
I did that once too.
And it worked.
Yeah, it works, but then you missed the car.
I sold it to this really eccentric guy who had a bunch of like old Rentec Mercedes. He drove it for a while, and then it went out into the ether. Every so often, I'd get someone say like, "Hey, I saw your car," because it was still like the same. And like some people were like, "Oh, now it's got all WRX badges like everywhere on it," and I was like, "Oh God." And then this guy who bought it, who contacted me, said when he bought it, the car had caught fire. Like someone had like wired up a speaker in the back and it torched the trunk.
Caught in the carpet.
And
Weird.
so he's been asking me for help trying to get it up and running. And I was working with him on a couple things, and he found that someone had installed one of those like UTEC, like plug and play ECUs into it,
Okay.
and didn't tune it right. And they did a bunch of stuff. They took out my boost controllers, and like I had that car like tuned.
Yeah, the car was really nice.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
That was tuned at like KTR. I had Franz Diebold. I don't know if
Yep.
you remember him.
Yeah,
I flew
KTR.
him in from Washington D.C. to tune my car.
That's awesome.
It made a ton of boost, and it got really good gas mileage.
Yeah.
And so he's been trying to fix it. And what I found was that it had this weird piggyback system. He's like, it's running terrible. And I was like, unplug it and plug it back into the old ECU and tell me how it feels. And he's like, it feels like it just gained like 150 horsepower.
That's awesome.
And then the next day it grenaded because it had been running so poorly for so long
Yeah.
Yep.
that it just. And then so he rebuilt the motor.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I think
it's
it
not
launched
hard.
itself again.
Oh, it's cool. The car's still out there, and you still know of it. And
Yeah. I keep in touch with him. It's still in pretty decent shape on the outside.
Maybe someday it'll come back to you.
I wouldn't want it.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, no, I'm done with turbo cars. After that,
You ever drive one and be like, I kind of miss this turbo feeling?
No, not anymore.
Alright.
I miss the V8 feeling.
Okay.
Okay.
It's different. But
I did. I had a GTI. I had a 8 Mark II. After
the red
that,
car.
black.
Black car.
Yeah, so I had a black that was like lowered on Porsche D90s.
Yep.
And we did an ABA swap in it, and that ABA swap came from Pat's old car that we found in a junkyard.
Excellent.
And we rebuilt it from a turbo ABA to a normally aspirated ABA, and it made like 120 horsepower at the wheels, which was pretty good.
2-liter 8-valve, right?
Yep, 2-liter 8-valve, very simple motor.
Yeah, very fun little motor.
Bolted right in. You know, I had a guy wired up for me. It was all OBD2 compliant, which was pretty cool.
Having driven 8-valve and 16-valves, I've always preferred the 8-valve around town,
They brought that
just because it's a little more
a
torque.
version of that back for the Mark 6s.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Well, I know like the inline 5 and the Mark 6, the Mark 6s is similar to the old 2.2 and the Audis from the 80s. So
A little bit, yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of cross shared stuff.
And then that got sold to one of the guys from like Club Broke status. He used it as like his winter car.
Up in Vermont.
Yeah, it was like in Alston for a while, and then it went to Vermont. Yeah, it was all over the place. And then I had an Audi S6. I had a 95, so I had the 2.2 20 valve, which everyone's like, "Oh, those cars are great."
Except
They're
for
okay.
every electrical problem.
Yeah, except for
all have.
all the problems that I had with it.
And everybody does. It's not just you.
No,
We have other friends with the same car, and our friend Matt's got the same car, and he's always had the same problems, like having spare like sensors and stuff in the trunk just to make sure that you
Yeah.
get home at night.
There's like you have a crank position sensor and you have a camshaft position sensor.
Yep.
And if either one of them is broken, the car doesn't run.
Doesn't run at all.
Yet they both give the same signal to the ECU.
And they're both like $300 or something
Weird.
stupid.
Yeah, and so the cam position sensor, I replace it 4 times.
That's weird.
And every time you do a cam position sensor, you're basically doing a timing belt.
Oh, it's inside the motor?
It's so you look at this at the timing gear for it, and it's actually got a little disc inside that's a hall sensor, and then the sensor is behind that. So if you've ever looked at like a 16 valve motor from the side, it's take that motor, turn it left, and add another cylinder.
Okay.
And then we put it. Then everything went to hell when I decided to make it RS2, do the RS2 turbo,
Big
the
turbo,
injectors, everything. I got a known good turbo from a friend of mine.
Known good is a scary word.
Yeah.
I have a known good cylinder head too. Yeah,
And-
guess what?
We did all the work, got it up and running, and just a smoke show out the back. And I called him up, and he was like, "Send it back. I'll have Borg Warner fix it." And now this is a hard turbo to find.
Okay.
And so this was I don't know if you know Mark up at EFI Express.
I don't know. No.
Nope.
He's like, if you have these motors, if you're into old school 5-cylinder turbo Audis, he's the guy to go to.
I've only had one old school Audi, and it was a naturally aspirated 5-cylinder.
Love that sound though.
It does sound amazing.
But so he covered the full cost of a rebuild, and
that's good.
And Borg Warner replaced every piece on it, and I got it back. And
I remember the car was down for a while.
it was down for like I want to say like a full fall and a full winter.
Yeah, and it was like your car. Like you didn't have
Yeah.
a second car. Like it was that car and the wife's car, and that was it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I remember you weren't very happy at those times about cars.
no, and that was another like reason why like I stopped liking turbo cars, because even when it was running right, every so often you wouldn't get boost.
Yep.
You'd be like on wastegate. You get like
Some
7
weird
pounds of
vacuum
boost.
issue.
But when you were on boost, it made like 30 pounds of boost because it was 034's RS2 kit. So it was just
Okay.
boosted out to balls. It was awesome.
What's funny, I remember that when I had, back in my early turbo days with the Talon, I could never figure it out. Some days the car would feel great, some days it would feel like it didn't have any boost at all, and we didn't know much about turbo cars then, or import cars at all, and everybody's like, oh, your clutch is slipping, I'm like, the motor's not revving out. It's not doing anything. So it was the same thing. It was a vacuum issue, and sometimes the wastegate would just not work right, and sometimes it would just pop open at 4 pounds of boost. So
Yeah.
it was just a weird vacuum issue that eventually I figured out when I figured out what I was doing. But
It would happen sometimes like you'd give it gas in second, and you'd get that slow wastegate build, and then you'd shift into third, and you'd get that full, like the N75 valve would be like, oh, you're asking for me? Here's your boost.
here's your power.
And that would just screw the car up because it would dump all the fuel in, expecting the wastegate to
Go
be
into,
like
a limp mode or something.
yeah. And then it had 1.8 T coils in it at first.
Okay, the early style 1.8 T coils.
Yep,
Right?
and so it had a conversion on it.
Okay.
Because when they first came out, they had this weird like power on stage setup that was gone before I got it. They had a 1.8 T conversion early on, and then the car was down for like a month. We were trying to find out why it wasn't starting, why it died one day. And we tested all the coils; they all tested fine. We replaced every relay, every sensor in the thing. Nothing. I eventually just gave up and sent it to a guy up in Gloucester, and he was like, "Oh, I just replaced the ignition coil."
Awesome.
And so after that, I swapped out those coils for LS style coils. That,
GM style.
yeah, and EFI Express makes those. That's
Yep.
how I got. And those work
They have
really
a lot of
well.
cars now. A lot of cars convert over to the LS coils.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
great
they
because you
just-
can remote mount them, and like they're designed to be mounted right on the engine block, which has a lot of heat, so you can
So
put them
they're
wherever you
remote,
want.
they're fine.
Yeah, and the nice thing is then you can run as long plug wires as you want.
Yeah, I know a lot of turbo cars run LS coils and GM MAFs and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I knew about the GM maps. You can run those in a
DSM.
DSM. I think maybe even Evos or something.
I'm sure.
There might be more speed density now.
Speed density is the way to go now, but
Yeah, the GM map was a real early type of workaround for that, I think.
Yeah, with I remember with my
Been a while.
cheap and effective.
Yeah.
with my WRX, the thing we were going to do was swap out the boost controller that we had put in. It was like an Apexi boost controller or something like that, or Blitz. It was a Blitz boost controller,
Yeah.
and we were going to swap it out for a Grand National boost control solenoid.
Oh, really? That's
And so what we did is we programmed the ECU.
that's really old technology.
Yeah, well, it's a really good boost control solenoid. And so we had tuned the motor to work with that. So we had actually written the code in there to run that. But we just never got around to putting it in. So when this guy who has it now got it, I was like, go find a Buick one and just plug it in. Let's just plug it in.
ready
It'll
to go.
work awesome. Because like I said, someone had ripped out the Blitz one. And
Which is a weird thing to remove from a car.
yeah, it was, yeah, that was crucial to because that was running the turbo.
Right.
But yeah, after years of dealing with that car, I sold it to a guy in Montana who sent a truck, and he paid more than I had into the car, thankfully. So I very rarely sell the.
Yeah.
I don't ever sell. I think the only car I ever sold for less than I had into it was that Scirocco, and I only had $100 on that one. So
that's okay.
No.
yeah,
I don't have that same history, so
No.
that's good on you.
no, I'm very good at not taking big hits on it. So I sold that, and then I got a Roadmaster wagon.
I remember that now. Yeah.
So I really, really liked that Top Gear episode.
Was it a Woody wagon?
No, it had the wood removed.
Oh, it was originally wood, yeah.
It was a wood delete model.
Oh, that's cool.
Was it the Top Gear USA one?
Yes.
Right? Yeah, with Rutledge Wood.
I watched that episode with him filling it with water and then just driving it forever and ever and ever. And I said to my wife, I'm going to buy one of those. And so I did.
And she said, "What?"
Yeah, she wasn't happy with that one. So I got
4x8 sheet of plywood in the back.
Well, so I bought it, and the guy I bought it from lived like a mile and a half from IKEA.
Yeah.
So we went down in her car,
Aha.
and then we came back in her car and my car.
That's
and
a good way.
loaded it.
That's a good way to get the wife on board with the car.
Yeah, it
Load it
was.
up with IKEA
I
furniture.
think I paid like $1,800 for it too. It was great, and it was in really good shape.
Yeah, I remember it had Polar SS wheels on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it did.
Cool car.
And I drove it there in the winter and had snow tires on it, and I put
Yep.
fake Flowmasters on it, and it sounded awesome.
Faux Masters.
Yeah, that's a.
And that LT1, right?
Yeah,
So
LT1. I did like the home plate delete because it's got this weird baffle on top of the engine that you just yank that thing off and put a hockey puck in it.
Interesting.
It's supposed to make the engine quieter, and it does make the engine quieter, and it's
But it
really
makes
easy
the
to take
exhaust
out. Yeah. And then so after that wore off on my wife real fast, and it smelled bad too.
You only had to go to
it's-
IKEA once,
It
so.
smelled like an old man's car, but it was
Did
great.
it leak?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I remember one time. Yeah, I drilled the. It was collecting water in the rear wheel wells, so I just drilled a hole in the bottom and
Yeah,
sprayed it.
That would cause the smell, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then but I really it had a great automatic transmission. Like I totally
Was it a
turned.
4L60E?
Yeah, I totally turned the corner on V8s and automatics at that point because I was like, you can shift it. It's got the column shifter. Like I was
No longer on the podcast.
yeah. I hate because that's like the first automatic car I'd had since my Grand Am, and my
Right.
Grand Am was terrible.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Grand Am is not a benchmark for anything other than terribleness.
And I just loved it. Like you could shift it. I was like, wait, you can actually just shift these things, and it was, and you could bang into curbs at like 50 miles an hour, and the thing would just
didn't matter.
keep going. Yeah.
A big body on frame car.
And then-
ride good.
And then I sold that for $1,000 more than I bought it for.
All right.
And I took everything I had out of it. And
You did make it look cooler though with the wheels and the exhaust.
No, it came
on
with the wheels.
Oh, really?
I put the exhaust on it. That cost me $80.
Sweet.
And I think I had to replace the AC compressor because I think that blew up on me.
Wait,
I would-
you have an automatic car with functioning AC? You're definitely off the podcast.
Yeah, it died on me one day, and that was the day I was going to I had to drive from Salem to the Tweeter Center, or whatever the hell it's called now.
Mansfield, Mass.
Yeah, and just in back, my wife's car was in the shop, so she couldn't take it, so she had to drive my car to pick me up in Boston
With no
and
AC.
No AC.
Ooh.
And I got it fixed the next day.
Yeah, that would definitely wear in the wife. I guess. Yeah.
But it was comfy. It was very comfy.
Yeah, very comfortable.
So that didn't last long, so I sold that for I have an E36 now, 97 328i. It's fun. It's the longest I've ever owned a car.
Yeah, it's a good little car.
But I haven't put a lot of miles on it. I think I got it with 189. It's got 195. That was 6 years ago.
I'll say
5
it's been
years
a while. Only 5,000 miles in 5 years.
ago. Yeah, I don't drive a lot.
It looks good. It sits nice. What do you have? Springs in it.
So it's got SoloWorks S1s, which are actually pretty good. They have a really nice warranty, and every piece you can buy from SoloWorks directly. So if your spring perch in the back has decided to weld itself shut with rust, which mine has, and that's why it's so
Are they
low.
coils? Are they coils?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the fronts are coilovers, the backs are.
The springs with the little coil pieces.
Yeah, exactly. But you can just go on their website and order 2 new spring perches for $20.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
And they had a really good warranty, and I got it through 1552 at the time.
Yeah,
And
but you have 1552 wheels on it too.
I
Well,
do.
not right now because it's got winter wheels on it.
yeah, I wish it did, but yeah, that was a good deal for me. I did a lot of work for the guys at 1552. Their website got hacked,
Okay.
and I fixed it.
Oh, okay.
And so I sent them an invoice for the $10,000 worth of work that I did. And I was like, or you could just send me some wheels and tires.
Excellent.
Nice.
And they look really good in the car. They completely changed the
There,
look of the
that
car.
has become a modern classic of a wheel.
The tarmac, right?
The tarmac, yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly what I wanted the car to look. Because that's when I was in high school. Like that's how I wanted. If I had an E36, that's how I would have done
DTM
it.
style.
DTM or BTCC style.
Which we were the same with Volvos. We both wanted an 850 with 15-spoke OZs and
The big, I wanted whatever the TSWs were with the fake,
the fake
center lock.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, Hockenheim's I think.
that's
Yes,
it. Hockenheim.
yes.
That's the one.
We had-
Hockenheim R.
We had those. My friend Elliot had those on his '95 GTI VR6.
That's excellent.
But I was like 14. I wanted my mom to get them for her 97 850 GLT.
and she was like, no. Her Aqua.
Yes, the very
850
90s
GLT.
Aqua GLT.
Hey, that car taught me to look at square exhaust tip means turbo.
And that's the car I've got now, and I'm not getting another one until my wife gets one first. It's the
Compromises. I
Yeah,
understand.
I got the last one. I don't drive it that often.
Right.
I ride my bike. I take the train.
Yeah, commuter life on the train.
Yeah,
Keeps
it's-
miles off the car.
I like E36s though.
I hated them at first.
I
'Cause
like
I was an
them
E30
now
guy.
because they're the last simple BMW.
Yeah, I think that's why when I used to drive them back when I had my E30, I was like, oh, I hate these things. They're so like soft and
Because you worked
gross.
at BMW PBD for a while, right?
Yeah, I worked for the Lionwell Auto Group for
Yeah.
4 years.
Yeah.
And so I got a lot of good information, and I was a systems integrator, so I got to see all like the ECU stuff and
Yep.
what they had a system called ISIS. That was what replaced the GT1 system,
awesome.
and I installed ISIS, and I don't know if they changed the name since. But
I hope
it's
so.
BMW. I think it's TIS now.
TIS was what it was before. That's the technical information system.
Oh, for the
ISIS is a system that reprograms
to
everything.
reprogram it, it's something else now, and I can't remember.
All right, we've talked about ISIS for too long. We're all on the list now, so let's move on to the next subject.
I'll have beards and
Yeah,
Not all of us. Only
Oh, yeah.
Andrew. Only Andrew
I
safe.
actually shaved mine because I had to renew my passport, and I had to get a picture.
okay.
So I didn't want to have a beard picture for 10 years.
All right.
yeah. So this is my wife's.
That takes us to today,
My wife's got the Mazda 5
Yep.
with a manual.
which is a cool van.
it's got manual?
honestly.
yeah, she got
it's a
five
really cool little van.
brand 2010 Mazda 5 with 42,000 5-speed manual.
That's a really cool little van.
But we're getting sick of driving manual now. We kind of want to.
No, you're definitely off the podcast now.
She wants a Volvo wagon.
You sure she doesn't want a B-body wagon?
She'd love. She's trying to. We're trying to get her like a Volvo wagon of some sort.
Yep.
Either an XC70, 60,
A new
90,
style or an older style, like a couple-year-old one?
like 2008 or newer.
Because they've gotten ridiculous in the past couple of years as far as price on Volvos go. They've gone
crazy
from being
high.
like a car that is the professor car from college to being like a high-end car now. They're
Well,
big money,
I went and saw the new S90.
which is a cool-looking car.
It is cheap
Is it really?
compared to like based
Not
on the
compared to old
size-
Volvos.
No.
Yeah.
But compared to like a 7 Series, it's as big as a 7 Series.
Okay. I haven't seen one in person that I've noticed.
It's
so
gorgeous too.
I know it's a good-looking car.
You sit in it, it's like it's like one of those like high class Swedish like hotels, right? Like every piece of wood is like high finish.
Going back to IKEA here.
Oh,
Yeah.
it really is such a nice and like it's comfy. It's like that's the thing is the Swedes always make the best seats.
Oh, absolutely.
All the Saab
Yep.
I had, it was so
Yeah, the
comfortable.
Saab we have now is I could drive that car for days on days.
My parents had a lot of Volvos. We're a Volvo family, but it got to the point where her last Volvo, the 05, the V50, just wasn't that great of a car anymore because it was
Yeah.
the Ford generation when
That
they
was
owned it.
yeah, those are based on a Fiat
And it
Focus.
Yeah, and it was starting to have a lot of weird electrical issues.
There was a lot of piggyback to Volvo to Ford electronics in that car. I
Yep.
think, right there.
Yeah,
And the Ford stuff's the problem.
yeah, because it needed a rear ABS sensor, so my dad replaced it, and then the same code kept coming back, and you'd go to drive it like a snowy, sleety day, and you going down that Hanson Street. This is real local. It's a big hill you got to drive down. I was driving it one day, and it just barely tapping the brakes, and they were like locking up.
ABS
Like
going
ABS was
crazy.
going crazy.
I remember
Light
it had
was
a weird
coming
no
off.
start sometimes too. The
Exactly. It had that
It didn't have a
weird.
key. Yeah.
Had that weird fat key with not like it wasn't like a metal part. It was just like a probe that would come
it was a
off.
plastic,
Stuck it in the dash. That
It was,
cost
like
them.
it was like a proximity key before they became like
Yeah, that cost them a ton
in-the-pocket
of money to
proximity
fix one
keys.
time.
I think those are built in Belgium too.
How that-
Yeah,
Again.
so they got rid of that, and They've become Subaru fans because
which a
Subaru
lot of Volvo people have.
around here, I think Subaru has picked up
enough
the
power.
market.
Just not enough power.
No,
my
they're
wife,
not.
my wife really wants one of those, but then she's like, "How much horsepower does it have?" I'm like, 150. She's like,
But has she driven
See,
one?
see, my mom's got the new
"Nah."
Outback.
Well, she's got 150 horsepower now.
That's what I'm saying. If she drives one of those, because I've driven his
That's
mother's
170.
new Outback.
Oh yeah.
But
and
it's-
it doesn't want for power.
No.
I mean it's
That
the way
actually
it's geared,
has-
the way it drives. It's a nice car.
that actually is the best CVT I've ever driven. Is a
really?
Subaru.
I didn't even realize it was a CVT.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. They've done a really good job with that.
When your dad had his surgery,
Yeah.
and he couldn't drive for a few months, I drove the car a couple times for
Yeah.
him, and I was impressed. I mean, for a naturally aspirated Boxer, which I've always hated because the only ones I've driven have been like a '95 Impreza.
Yeah.
Like Stephanie's car, it's just a slug.
Yeah, it's terrible. But the car is very, very impressive. You don't notice that it's a Boxer. It doesn't sound like a Boxer inside the car. The transmission, like I said, I had no idea it was a CVT.
They're big though.
They must program shift points into it. I mean, it's the size of a first-gen Explorer now, but
Yeah.
it's have her drive one before you just go on numbers.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
For the money,
for the money, it's a good car.
Well, she just really wants a red Volvo.
Well,
Which
there's-
I'm also
hey,
not like I'm not telling her no. I'm saying,
Oh, yeah,
let's
absolutely.
get you a passion red
Well,
Volvo.
there's always the emotional attachment to a car is more important than anything else.
Yeah.
You know, it's the reason that I love old Mitsubishi Colts, Dodge Colts. I have no rational explanation for it. I know there's cars out there that are better than everything that I own, but there's just that's why we're into cars.
Yeah.
I mean, you would if you didn't care about the emotional connection to a car, you wouldn't be driving an E36. You know, it's,
drive a Camry.
Yeah, you drive exactly.
Well, I drive the Camry of BMWs.
But you don't because it's a rear-wheel drive 5-speed car that you
Yeah.
can go out and rip around in the
Yeah,
rain
and
and the
put a limited
snow.
slip in and-
yeah, exactly. And you put 1552s on it and you lowered it. And
I could do that with a Camry.
You're fooling yourself if you think you could have been in a Camry. You would not have been a happy person.
No, and I mean it
As,
stinks.
as
one's
grounded
stinks
to the ground as the ad said they were.
Yeah.
They really are not very much at all. So, but I wouldn't have her drive a Subaru before you discredit
Yeah,
it. I mean,
we'll try. I think we're right now we're getting nothing because we're moving into another house. So
Yeah, you don't wanna buy
are you
anything
staying
for it.
local?
Huh?
Are you staying local?
Oh, yeah.
Without
Just
too much
going over
information.
Beverly.
Since I've already I've already blown up your spot.
Yeah, no, ruining my old place if you know where that is.
I have a general idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. But anyway, yeah, I'd look at that before, and I would never have, like I said, I would never have suggested a Subaru for anybody 5 years ago, other than an enthusiast looking for a WRX or an STI. But
Which I wouldn't even buy a WRX right now.
Oh, they're ugly.
I think they're ugly and I think they're overpriced.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have all-wheel drive, but I'd rather go with we're looking at a Focus ST instead, just because it comes in a wagon.
well, I can
five
tell
door.
you all about the STs.
Yes, Jared's other little side project here, which you did with Brad from 1552, correct?
Yeah, worked with Brad and Matt from 1552 and Ford
Yep.
to launch the ST brand in America.
Yeah.
And that was primarily because of me screwing around on Vortex for so many years.
Right.
Them knowing me, I know Brian Scotto from
Hoonigan.
Hoonigan / 0 to 60 Mag, which I was
like
like
0
a
to 60.
huge
That was like-
shill
Yeah,
for them. Yeah.
yeah.
That was awesome magazine when it was around for like a minute.
Totally unpaid shill for them just because it was so well written.
Yeah.
It was just like fun adventures.
Who was it
cars.
that we knew from 0 to 60? We up in Maine.
Oh, Chris Duplessis was
Duplessis.
doing
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
with
yeah.
them.
He was doing articles and stuff with them. And I remember we talked to him about that.
No, it wasn't doing articles. They came up and they
Oh, they're doing articles about
they
him?
covered the New England Forest Rally in like 2010.
Yeah.
Like they came and just
Oh,
did the
yeah.
whole weekend with them. Yeah,
I remember everything we owned had 0 to 60 stickers all over
because they were
for
just
a while.
throwing them out when we were up at the rally. I was just grabbing them.
Yeah, so I wrote the Project ST stuff. I did all the history lessons, which was great because
It's really cool.
Ford
Yeah.
gave me access to their database of photos, like their catalog of photos, and I was just yanking photos that like I've never seen.
That's awesome.
Out there. Like I found like an original picture of an '83 Escort GT Turbo. Right. As far as I'm concerned, I've never actually seen a stock one for sale, like one that actually was a turbo and not just a turbo.
I don't think I
added.
knew it existed.
Yeah, so there was turbo, there's turbo EXPs, and like I found catalog photos of that, and I did articles. I mean, I did articles of really crappy cars too.
And I love it.
Like-
I read most of it. You know,
Yeah.
our mutual friend Andy is
And
an
Andy,
EXP
I was gonna say,
collector.
Andy,
Yeah.
I actually did an article of Reader's Ride on
Yeah.
his like factory fresh EXP.
Which he just bought back.
Oh, he sold it.
He sold it about 2 years ago, I think.
Oh, really?
And he just bought it back because he missed it so much.
I got.
He has like I
got
think
to
he
ride
has.
in that.
I think right now he has 4 EXPs and 3 LN7s.
Yeah, and he's got the two convertibles that they made.
Yes, I think there are 3 LN7 convertibles, and he has 2 of them.
Yeah, he's got a yellow one in Florida,
and a
he's
red
got
one
a
up
red
here.
one up here.
I had the pleasure of working on the red one.
Oh, really?
It was different. I really love obscure cars, so I really love the car. I don't know if I could own it, but I really loved having it. What happened was when the car was built, they didn't have any kind of bracing when they cut the roof off of it. Mm-hmm. It had a little bit of bracing, but it wasn't very good. So he brought it he asked me if I could, brace up the bottom of it somehow with some square tube or something. So we did a little bit to try to, straighten the car so it wasn't as much of a wet noodle anymore going on the road. But that's a cool car.
Yeah, it was a weird conversion too. I don't know if it was ASC McLaren that did it.
It was a different company.
Yeah, it was someone else, and they
company
literally just cut the roof off and was like, "Here you go. Is this okay? Can we sell this?"
It was the same company that did the Thunderbirds that he has too.
Oh God! Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen his Thunderbirds.
He has an 82, doesn't he? He's got the
I'm not going to quote the years because they're wrong. But it's that generation.
He's got that awful one that's totally square.
Right, and the side moldings don't line up with the bumper moldings from the factory.
It's like they made it for 3 years. It's
right.
78.
He's got 4 of them.
Something.
Huh.
He has one that has 381 miles on it, and it's absolutely pristine. Nobody wants it but him, but it's a cool car because
if you gotta get your windows, your glass done for your car.
Oh, he's the guy
I go to
absolutely.
Now, just because I like sending him my business.
Yeah, and he's a really good guy too.
Yeah. So when the weather's better, we gotta have Jared see our friend's Mark II Escort.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a big antique Ford guy, especially the European stuff.
Yeah, it's a very cool car. I thought you were going to say his Mark II Volkswagen because that's really nice too.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that car. He says a museum quality Mark II.
Actual museum quality.
Yeah.
This thing is you wouldn't even know it'd been sat in before. I mean, the car is that nice, and it's bone stock. Still has the arrow headlights. Was never converted to dual rounds, and I mean the car. It's for a car that's got I think 60-something thousand miles on it. It's factory 16 valve. It's the right car. It's red, black
BBS
shots.
bumpers,
the mesh
bumpers.
It's got knocked off BBS wheels on it, but
whatever.
he has the stock.
It's got the
It's got arrows, and if it's got arrows, it's a small bumper one. Yeah.
It's a small bumper car. Yeah, it's an 87.
Yeah, this will be first year.
So I
16
think it's
valve.
87. Yeah, it's an unbelievable car. But he also has a Mark II and a Mark 1 now. He bought a Mark 1.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He did. He bought he has an actual RS 2000 Mark II, and he just bought a Mark 1, which is a reshelled RS 2000. The original one, I guess, was just rotten beyond compare.
Probably.
So they took
Which is a pretty common thing, I guess, in England.
reshelling a car, yeah. So they took another Mark 1, and I'm not going to quote exactly what it is, but it wasn't like a 1300. It was like the one level below the RS 2000. So it's
Was it
it's still
1800?
It's still a seam welded
No,
shell
the
and
1800s
everything. But
Mark II. The first ones were Mexico, so you could have been an RS Mexico.
maybe it's an RS Mexico.
So
I know it's
RS
one level
Mexico's
below an
at
RS 2000 because it has a seam welded shell, I think. And they moved everything from the RS 2000 over to this car.
So it's definitely it's going to be a Mexico.
car-
It's a C-molded
it's-
Mark 1, and it doesn't have the...
He bought it.
Aussie.
He bought it last month. His father still lives in Wales, so he stored it in his father's garage for the
Nice.
winter, and he'll be bringing it over here in March. So, actually, one of them will be for sale next year. So keep an eye on those.
All right, cool.
Left-hand or right-hand drive?
Both left-hand drive,
Wow, that's pretty lucky.
and I mean they're going to be big money cars, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But they're, I mean, it's going to be.
You know,
I drool over this thing. I've sat in this thing. I haven't had a chance to drive even the Mark II yet, but I will. I mean, it's
We're gonna have to do some video with it.
yeah. We're gonna have to do anything that gets an excuse to look at it for another minute is going to be.
Yeah, he'll be done with that too.
So
Because he had that cool Trans Am that he got rid of, and
yep. He buys the nicest of the nice cars, so
yeah, but he wants. I know he wants me to take pictures of them. So,
yeah, it's gonna be worth it. That car's so nice.
But-
Yeah,
well, we're a little over 60 minutes.
Okay.
So I think we're gonna.
Well, that was a good first guest, Jared.
I
Thank
think
you
we're
for
gonna call
coming.
that a podcast.
Pretty
We're-
awesome that you're local and have such similar car knowledge and experience as us. So we'll definitely have you back on again.
So if you've got any social media you want to plug or anything, you can go for it.
Not really. I don't really do a lot of social media, unfortunately, but I'll let you guys...
Jared is famous from the internet, but now he's behind.
Yeah, I'm an old man, and
Yeah.
I don't like Twitter.
Old
He likes
internet.
forums, man. I want a
I think I have
forum.
an Instagram. It's Chapel978.
You do have an Instagram.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think you put much on it, though.
No, I try. I try to look at it at least once a week, but...
Got to get back on that. That's
Yeah.
where
I
that's where the
actually
followers come
Instagram's
from.
like my favorite one because it's just
There's no politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's very little politics, and
you can curate it really well.
You can curate it a lot better than Facebook.
Yeah.
You can really make it exactly what you want it to be. So, and we've honestly we've had a whole episode about social media, but we've met so many good people. You're buying your Montero through social media essentially.
Yeah, I've never met them in person, but
We talk to them all the time.
Talked to them a bunch
Never
of
met them.
times.
Yeah. So, and I'm buying the truck through somebody else out there, not even the same person who I know through social media. So
been in the same area as them at the same time. He did run the rally, Prescott Rally, back in 2010. We were there in Arizona.
Wasabi did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we've been in the same
Right. We've
like,
seen him.
physical space.
That was before we knew who he was, though.
Yeah.
And we
So-
moved by proxy. He's friends with Dimitri.
Yep.
And he knows that they've rallied together, haven't they?
Yes.
Yeah,
and he knows
so-
Brian Driggs, so
Yeah. So,
yeah, we know enough people.
yeah. We're
It's safe.
yeah, exactly. Enough people that'll make sure we're not getting taken advantage of.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you can follow the podcast on Facebook. It's the Auto Off Topic podcast, and you can follow us on Instagram, Auto Off Topic. If you've got any questions, comments, you want to know more about my truck, you can email me at autoofftopic@gmail.com.
Or me at brad@vintageimportsne.com.
Yes, the truck will be for sale on the Vine website. We'll also be posting it from Vine to Craigslist and all the good places you find.
All the places you can sell a truck.
So, anything else?
My Instagram, Vintage Imports NE. My Facebook, Vintage Imports of New England. My personal Instagram, Andrew's already smiling because here we are again making fun of my name, TSISS350. I'm working on changing that. I have to do it slowly, though.
Just Brad at Vine.
Well, I have a Vine one and a personal one.
Ah, yeah.
See, I don't want to have any pictures of the wife and daughter and dog, really, on the Vine one.
Yeah.
Whereas I still want to have...
So-
every now and then I got to take a picture of the family and put it up somewhere just so they don't think that I hate them and only like cars.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably true, but I don't hate them, but I do only like cars.
So my personal one is Race and Anger on Instagram.
I'm just kidding,
And
Deb, by the way.
we, you've probably heard him before on the podcast in the background, Enzo Barking. So my fiance has actually made Enzo a Instagram page. If you want to follow an Instagram page of a black lab, it's Enzo the Cuddle Buddy.
Yes. Or Cuddle Buddy Enzo.
Cuddle Buddy Enzo. That's what it is.
Come on now.
And she also made one for her cooking. It's called Steph's Ugly Kitchen
Excellent.
because our kitchen is disgusting as you. Well, it's not dirty. It's just really decorated in poor taste by the previous owners of our house. So
I
That
still
was
think you should keep
contemporary.
it.
That was a contemporary.
It was-
I don't think it was.
we were told it was the high end one from Circuit City, not
Tri-City Sales.
Tri-City Sales, which is a local
like
place.
78.
Yeah. So
But that sink is fucking awesome.
yeah, it's got a bright
Yellow.
yellow sink. Yeah, you can see a picture of the bright yellow sink on the Instagram page. As always,
Is she taking our advice? Is there going to be a Stephanie cooking show? Steph's Ugly Kitchen cooking show?
I told her we could do videos if she
We
wants.
have to
but
do it. It's very important.
It can fund the replacement of the carpet. in
Yeah.
the
Fund the
kitchen.
replacement of the whole kitchen if you do it right.
I bought her.
That girl can cook.
I bought her a new stainless steel cart to kind of bling it up in there a little bit. I got another stainless steel counter to add some counter space.
There you go.
Usability at least.
I didn't know
So-
I didn't know we were promoting our wives things on.
If you want,
So
Oh, yeah,
if
of
you
course.
want to do that,
absolutely.
my wife has written a book
Yes.
and it's been published, self-published. But hey,
it's a book and it
pretty
exists.
amazing.
Yep.
She wrote a book, and I'm super proud of her. It's called Maddox Pike.
It's a mystery novel,
mystery
right?
novel,
Or
yeah.
thriller novel.
It's a mystery thriller. It's a real dark book. So it's called Maddox Pike by D.A. Flanagan, and you can get that on Amazon or Barnes and Noble.
Yep. Excellent.
Yeah.
And as always, please rate, review, and share the podcast. And thanks for listening. Keep your cars analog.
Good night.